start with someone like Lady Gaga? Well, there are many avenues you can go down when discussing Gaga, and one thing's for certain, you're going to get conflicting opinions depending on who you ask. For the amount of people who would describe her as an inspirational, one-of-a-kind and awe-inspiring artist, the same number will define her as beguiling, nothing all that special, ripping off a myriad of female artists who came before her, and when you strip away all the aesthetics, there's nothing all that unique when all things are considered. Regardless of what side of the fence you may fall over on, one thing that can't be denied is that she's responsible for some of this decade's most infectious and memorable pop tunes. Back in the early 2010s, I considered myself a massive fan of Lady Gaga, but as time went by, everything that came after the Fame Monster didn't really capture my attention all that much, and the preceding material felt too self-involved and lacked that fun and vibrancy that her first two projects encapsulated. Which makes Joanne, her fifth solo studio album, a rather intriguing yet conflicting one. Primarily because this is unlike anything Gaga has ever released, and it's something that I personally wasn't prepared for, not even upon hearing the lead single Perfect Illusion. This album is defined as soft rock whilst having a small element of dance pop to it, and whilst I can appreciate Gaga attempting something that is un-Gaga, I can't help but feel that there are too many glaring issues here that prevent me from wholly embracing this project. One thing that will immediately grip the listener is the songwriting, and gone are the overly explicit songs that conjure up all sorts of imagery and visual implications, and here is a more restrained and subtle approach to songwriting. The album doesn't really have a focused narrative and often switches themes. One of these themes is that of broken relationships, and to Gaga's credit, there are some tracks within this theme that I do find enjoyable. Although I didn't immediately gravitate towards Perfect Illusion when I first heard it, the more I digested the track, the more I grew to like it, and it's one of this album's more stronger pieces. A Million Reasons comes down from the aforementioned track's upbeat nature into an acoustic guitar piano ballad, where Gaga seeks that one reason to stay with her guy, despite having so many reasons to no longer be with him. It has an air of earnestness and draws some real raw emotion that I find myself won over completely. Away from this, you have the titular track, which reads as Gaga comforting someone close to her, potentially a family member, as they near the end of their life. Ayo, where Gaga simply wants to engage in some heavy petting with some guy, and Sinner's Prayer, where she portrays herself as a flawed individual and recognises that she needs to be steered in the right direction in order to better herself, since she's intending on breaking a specific man's heart. All of these are tracks that I find myself enjoying immensely, but that's not to say that there aren't any tracks on here that I don't find myself gravitating towards entirely. For its good message and good intentions, I've heard plenty of similar tracks like Angel Down that I feel have been covered better than what this track eventually turned out to be. John Wayne comes off as a simple list of tropes and characteristics that are just as interchangeable as you can imagine when Gaga comes to defining why she'd prefer a cowboy to a city slicker, and Come to Mama, which spouts off the One Love mantra, which a part of me feels like this track needed something visceral in the lyrics to really deliver a punch to the gut, rather than the daisy chain wearing, peace sign touting, all you need is love brigade chanting saccharine shtick that honestly doesn't do anything for me in the slightest. And on top of that, the number of memorable hooks that are missing, some of these songs can come off as somewhat underwhelming. Now on to vocals, instrumentation and production, and this is where I feel the album does falter slightly. Whilst I don't believe that there's anything terrible to be found, I can't help but feel that the lack of memorable hooks and melody leave very little to remember once the album's over. Perfect Illusion stands out as one of the most energetic and lively tracks on the album. The electronic dance beat plus the rawness of Gaga's vocals make this track one of the standout songs. Million Reasons and Joanne being gentle acoustic ballads, the first being borderline soft folk rock, and the second containing an accompanying piano which touches on all of the right emotions. The country music flair found on songs like Sinner's Prayer and John Wayne, with the thundering kick drums, driving bass guitar and guitar distortion, gives these tracks a certain roughness that I personally find very welcoming, and through all of the hand claps, thudding drums and bass, you can make out a hint of an Indian influence lingering in the background on Ayo. But for all of these enjoyable moments, the ones that don't settle as easily are all the more prominent. Hey Girl feels rather stunted and hollow. On top of that, you have the synth inclusion which sounds cheap, and somehow the inclusion of Florence Welch does absolutely nothing to make you want to give a damn about this track. Plus, neither of the ladies really do much with their vocals. There are so many great in-sync moments that they could have done, but at the end of the day, this track is just a huge disappointment in my opinion. The digitalised vocals on Joanne are in no way necessary, but that's nothing compared to the low, crackling drone of the vocals in the chorus that's delivered on Dancin in Circles, and the instrumentation comes off as messy, unfocused, and is in essence a collaboration of warbled noises that offer nothing of any satisfaction. And even songs like Diamond Heart and Come to Mama feel like they're in need of some personality, both failing to really capture the imagination in any way. If this album has taught me anything, it's that I prefer my Lady Gaga to be theatrical, highly expressive, over the top and unrestrained, and not up her own arse. I personally miss the sense of fun and playfulness that earlier projects had, and Joanne is as far from fun and playful as you can get. I respect that Gaga attempted to do something completely different, but if truth be told, I think this could be a case of Gaga peaking far too early than anyone could have anticipated. She's done the pop and the dance pop genres superbly in the early stages, and she's dabbled in swing and jazz, rock, soft rock, and to a degree country following those early years, and for me, I don't think she's come close to topping said years. But as I said in the introduction, Lady Gaga is capable of splitting opinions, and mine is just another one to throw onto the pile. As for this album, it could have been better, but for what it is, it still remains a better album than art pop, so take that for what it's worth.